In this difficult phase for capital markets, what global equity investors can expect?
I think the heightened volatility in equity markets in the spring of this year has brought people's memories back to the nasty falls that we experienced in the summer of last year. And people are wondering whether there is a repeat out there. Of course, it's difficult to say with total certainty, but I think we can look at a number of factors and draw some conclusions. Firstly, we have easy liquidity conditions. We have had this for some time, but there is ample money supply being provided by central banks, which is a positive. Secondly, it's undoubtedly true that the most recent corporate results season, particularly in the United States, has been positive, and that positive news flow is good for confidence. Thirdly, positioning does not seem extreme. Investors are not overextended to risk. And lastly, valuations certainly don't provide any constraint to markets rising. If we sum those up, I think that the likelihood of a major fall such as we saw last summer at the moment is low, and therefore I think that the outlook for equities is better than most people expect.
Are we going to face another situation like 2011 with risk-on, risk-off alternations, and what investors can do?
It's certainly true that the markets will continue to act in a risk-on and risk-off manner, and we can move into a risk-off, volatile phase at any moment. When investors position their portfolios, they need to recognize how the various components of those portfolios will move in both a risk-on and risk-off. It is particularly important to realize that if we go into risk-off, then the volatilities of all assets will rise and correlations will rise. Therefore, take equity risk, but be wary. Do not overextend yourself to leverage.
Over the long term, where investors can find the best opportunities in global equity markets?
The emerging market story has been a favorite amongst investors for a long time, but emerging markets as an asset class have not performed well in the last 2 or 3 years, relative to even developed markets like the US. This has brought valuations down in emerging markets, while the strength of the story in relative growth terms is still there. I believe that global emerging markets will come back as an asset class and will produce good returns from this level. So that is where I'd concentrate my attention.